The topic is why build a personal brand and how. When I started preparing for this topic, I had tons of different ideas. It was a very open-ended topic, but I wanted to value your time and my time. Both of our time is important. I wanted to keep it short, to the point, and at the end of the session, what I want you to take away from this is to feel motivated to build a personal brand of your own if you don't have one already. So the agenda, just putting it out there, is that this is going to be an informal session. So if at any point you feel like you would like to interrupt, feel free to do so. Ask any questions. We can go for a discussion. Obviously, depending on how much time we have, but I am open to any discussion that we have related to this topic. First, I'm going to start off with why we should build a brand, or why you should particularly build a personal brand. Then we are going to cover, like in the next 60%, how to build a brand and how to measure its success. And then we are going to talk about what's the end goal of building a brand. And as a bonus, I just wanted to put it out there as to when to say no to opportunities. And if time allows, we are going to have a discussion at the end. You can call it a Q&A too. That is depending on the time. If I take questions throughout the session, I don't think there would be a need for a discussion at the end. But either way, if we have time, why not? So I wanted to ask you that, just if you can hear me and if you can respond to me, how many of these guys do you know by name at least? So like I have pictures of 6 guys. Just let me know how many of these do you know. I can't see the chat, so you might have to speak out.
I can read the chat. Ubaid says he has seen Elon, Ahmed 3, Shazib 2, Arham 1, Shazib says Elon and Jordan Peterson, Aruj 1.
Okay, perfect. So yes, that is Elon Musk. This is Tim Ferriss, a very famous author. This is Jordan Peterson. This is Gary. This is Tony. This is a very known professor. Uh, so the reason of putting these guys up on the screen is that I wanted to highlight something. All of these guys, except one, have a very strong personal branding. All of these guys except this one right here. So this one on the bottom left, all of these have a very strong branding except this one. Uh, and don't get me wrong, the guy that I'm right now pointing to is a very known established person. He is the person. He is a doctor by profession, and he has written over 33,000 papers. He has been cited over 130,000 times in just the last decade. So he is probably the most prolific writer and researcher in the last decade. But unfortunately, I guess none of us know who he is. And probably when I was researching for this, it was the first time I heard of him too. So that is how powerful your personal brand is. Even if you accomplish a lot, if your personal brand isn't strong, your scope would be limited. Don't get me wrong, this person right here, the doctor, a lot of people would know him, obviously, but my guess is that a fewer number of people would know him as compared to, let's say, a similar professor, Jordan Peterson, who hasn't written so many research papers, who hasn't been cited so much, and in the true sense, he isn't such an accomplished professor as the one on the bottom. But Jordan Peterson gets more fame. He comes on TV, he is on YouTube all the time because of his personal brand. So I just wanted to make you realize that personal branding is important. Whether you are a accomplished person, whether you are starting your career, and whether you are even in the middle of your career or even near your retirement, it doesn't matter. Your personal branding does matter. So, uh, if you guys can open your mic, I would highly appreciate it. My question is, what do you think is a personal brand? And just to make sure we do not deviate too much from the topic, I just put a small hint. It is not your reputation. So it is not the opinions and beliefs that others have from you, others form about you. So it is not that. It is not your reputation. Now the stage is yours. Just speak up and let me know what you think your personal brand is.
All right. Maybe I'll, start with this.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, it's basically the value and services maybe you can offer to someone or any company or any system. So that might attract you uh, to that place, right? So that can be a type of personal brand.
That's a good response. Anyone else?
In my opinion, it would be the amount of influence that you hold over other people, the way you can influence other by what your actions or what you say.
Yep, that's probably a closer response to what a personal brand is. Is there anyone else who would like to contribute?
Someone
Okay.
anonymous mentioned your worth
Yep.
or value.
Yeah. I think all three of the people who responded are pretty close to what a personal brand is. However, the way that I like to define what your personal brand is, it is how you want people to see you. So it is kind of not the services that you provide, since services, like if you work for a firm, the services that you offer would be related to the firm, right? But your personal brand is something that you own, right? If let's say if I am working for a top MNC right now, people would know me, like my value would normally be associated with the firm that I work for. If someone searches me on Google and he finds out that, let's say, I work at the top consulting firm, he will respect me because I work at the top consulting firm, right? But your, if you have a personal brand, they won't associate you with your firm that you work with. They would associate the firm because based on where you work. So like if I go back right here, if I go back, so if I go back, Elon Musk, right? If people see him, they won't think of his companies first, they would think of this guy. If you see Jordan Peterson, I am sure 90% wouldn't even know where he works, but we know this guy. He has a brand image, he has his personal brand which we associate and connect with. So that is what your personal branding is. It is what you want the people to see, not the services that you provide, but what you want the people to see. And what differentiates it from the reputation that you hold is reputation is based on others' belief about you. And you kind of can control your reputation as well. But let's say if you are working in a firm and you for some reason come to a couple of meetings late, right? So a lot of people would have a opinion about you that you are often late to your meetings. So that is kind of a reputation that would form in their eyes about you. However, your personal brand is what you want the people to see, so it is more intentional, and it mainly focuses on two things. The first being your visibility, and the second being the values that you want to represent. So it might not be the values that you actually hold, but it is the values that you want to represent. Don't get me wrong, I'm not I'm not advocating that you represent values that you do not own. But what I'm saying is that often what we want to do is, if we have, let's say, a set of 10 values, the values that we want to represent are not the entire 10, but a small subsection of those values. Let's say if I have 10 values and I want to just represent 8 of them, that is perfectly fine. I just keep the two others private. But I wouldn't want to go the other way, and I wouldn't want to represent a value that I do not own. So your personal brand is about your visibility and the values that you want to represent. So that is like a lot of talking from my side, just to tell you why you should build your personal brand. Uh, Before we go on to this, if you can either say out or put it in the chat, do, right now, do you think you guys should have a personal brand of your own? So that's a question from me. Do you think you should have a personal brand? I'm reading the chat. Yes. Gulfidus says yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Wow. Everyone agrees. At least in a limited context. That's interesting. Yes. Of course. Very important. Okay. In the interest of time, I'm just moving on. So if almost everyone agrees that you should have a personal brand, I don't think it's a good use of my time to go through all of these. Just to quickly go through these in a flash, it builds your credibility, it increases your visibility, it opens doors for you, it keeps you focused on what matters, it helps you build relationships, and it looks cool. So I have a personal website. So whenever I go to any gatherings or meetings and someone wants to look me up and he asks me what my LinkedIn profile is, all I do is I just tell him to Google me up. He Googles me up, he finds my website, goes there, and it kind of more than often amazes him. So it kind of looks cool. You get to build relationships with people, and what it does, it keeps you focused on what matters. I'm going to dive into this later on. So how it keeps you focused on what actually matters, and obviously it opens doors for you. If you have a personal brand, people know you, your visibility is increased, and one thing leads to another, and slowly and gradually the doors open up for you. Like right now, if I am speaking right here, it is because of the personal brand that I have. So my accomplishments aren't enough to get me to this stage. It is because of the personal brand that I hold that I have been invited here, if that makes any sense. So, just putting it out here, uh, approximately 1 billion names are Googled every day. So, if you Google your name right now and you do not find yourself with occupying the entire first page of Google, your personal brand isn't strong enough. So, just having a couple of links on Google isn't good. The reason being that if you have your LinkedIn profile there, you have a couple of Facebook posts in the first few search results. The other 8, 10 results would be of different people, and what that could do is potentially someone might be able to hijack those results, and he might probably be able to get on top of you, and that is not what you want. You want your name to be private to you. You want your name to be up. So if anyone searches your name on Google, they should be able to find you and you only. So my advice is, if you can, try to occupy the entire first page on Google with your name. Obviously that isn't easy, and we are going to talk about how we can do that. Uh, so my next slide is, many of I thought that many of you might think that it's too early to build a personal brand right now. Like still you guys are still in your university, so focusing on your studies, doing a lot of other things, extracurriculars and stuff. So is it really beneficial to build a personal brand? Uh, I know it takes us an eternity just to make a resume and prepare for the interviews. Now, is it actually beneficial to go a step further than others and build a personal brand and take out all the time out for this? Uh, I think yes. It's always better to start early, since whenever I am in this dilemma, if I have to decide between two options, I always ask myself, what is the worst case scenario? So that is always a good thing to do. Whenever you are in a difficulty between two options, ask yourself the worst case scenario. Building a brand doesn't require a lot of effort. So it just requires consistency. The earlier you start, the more time you have. And obviously, growing your audience requires a lot of time. You cannot do it overnight. You have to start, do it gradually. And the last thing, very important thing, is you do not want to go miss out on good usernames, domains, and email addresses. That is something that I have put here because I had to face something of this sort. Uh, so when I wanted to start my website, the best domain name that I could think of was Zen Khan, right? Because most of the people that know think that my name is Zen Khan. However, my entire name is Muhammad Zainullah Khan, but Zen Khan is kind of a abbreviated version of my name. So the first instinct was I wanted to get zenkhan.com. Why not? So I tried searching for zenkhan.com, and unfortunately, someone else had bought it. So I managed to find out who that person was. He was in UK. I contacted the person, and the interesting thing was that he did not have a proper website up on zenkhan.com. So I asked him, why aren't you selling this to me? He told me that he won't sell it to me. So I asked him, why aren't you selling it to me? And I even offered him quite a lot of money to get just the domain name zenkhan.com, and he wasn't willing to. And I was curious at this stage. So I asked him, I inquired, and I talked to him. And he was a very future sighted person, and he said the reason he had booked zenkhan.com is because his son is 8 years old, and he wants to keep that domain name from now in order to ensure that no one takes it in the future and his son can have it. And that is what struck me. So people are becoming more and more clever. They are looking into the future more, and they have started realizing how important your domain name is. Um, Probably if you would have asked me a couple of years ago whether to get a domain name or not, I wouldn't have been so sure. But now that I have one, I realize its importance. So you see, all these social media profiles that you have, people used to have Facebook. Now many don't. People have Instagram, they have Snapchat, they have LinkedIn and stuff. But all these social media profiles, they come, they go, they come, they go, right? So it is not a stable platform to build your personal brand on. Your stablest platform would be your own domain, something that you can completely control. So before I move on, if there is there any question or any point of discussion that anyone wants to have?
Think we are cool right now. Maybe we can move forward and then we'll gather the questions at the end, if that's
Okay,
fine.
perfect. So if there is anything that you want me to elaborate more, just let me know right there and then. So the question is how to build your personal brand, and probably this is the part of the presentation I want to spend the most time on. Right, we all know the importance of a personal brand. Now, how to build it? The the way that I like to recommend it is pretty straightforward. It's just these steps. The first one is you need to have a good LinkedIn profile. Nothing beats that. Second is you need to have a professional email address. Third would be setting up your website, then start blogging, spreading whatever information you have, starting a newsletter, and becoming an author. So these are probably in chronological order. So you would want to start at the top and make your way ultimately to becoming an author. And you realize once you become an author and once you have that title of being an author, it right off the bat adds credentials to your profile. Let's say if I was being introduced as being the author of New York's #1 seller, everyone would listen to me more. It is not because of the book that I had written, but because of the title that I hold, because of the personal brand that I had built. So becoming an author is ultimately where you would want to end up. If obviously if you want to go down that route, but for now, I would say that these three things are the ones that you should focus on the most. So you should have a LinkedIn profile, a polished one, a professional email address, and you should set up your website. So now I just wanted to quickly go over what to do in order to polish your LinkedIn profile. The first thing is your headline. So your headline is what appears under your name. Uh, so pardon me, but all I have done is I have screenshotted things from my own profile due to not being like get into a copyright issue or something. So everything is based on my profile, just to give you an idea, and not just don't take it as me boasting about anything. Obviously, my profile isn't perfect, but so the first thing that you would want to do is you would want to start with your headline, which is this portion right here, and you would want it to communicate where you work, your past affiliation, and who you are professionally. So where I work is I am an MSc student. My past affiliation is with UEP, and who I am is a mechanical engineer. Just three things. That is it. The second is you need to get your banner right. This is probably the most important thing that people are missing out on. Banner is the thing that when you go to someone's profile, it is what shows up on the top. So what I see is most of the people have the default banners and it doesn't communicate a lot. So you need to have a custom banner. So right now, if anyone goes to my profile, they are going to see this. Um, so if Isa, if you can post the link to my profile right now, if anyone wants to check it out. So the thing is that here in this, you can see that what I've done is I've just put a good picture of me and I have got my website written here. So right off the bat, it adds credentials to what I have to say or what I have to offer. So people see that I have a website. Oh, good, perfect. Now I have got this Zen name, which just shows people that they need to refer to me as Zen, not the entire thing. Now They can see my past affiliation, which just again adds credentials to who I am, what I have done. And then below your banner, below your name, there is a section of about. Most of the people again have a very default about, very not a very customized about section. So I would recommend that you take a few minutes and customize that. And the way that I recommend doing it is that in the first two lines, you tell people what you are currently doing. If you are doing your undergrad degree in so and so, you are doing your undergrad in, let's say, material science, just write that down. In GIK, currently in my third year, and looking forward to working in so and so firm, let's say in an MNC. The third line is the last line that shows up before people have to click more, right? So that is the line that you want to engage people in. You don't want to be clickbaity, obviously, but you want people to want to read more. So your third line is probably the most important line of the entire about section. You want people to click more and see what you have got to say. And at the end of the about section, you would want to have your email address, your website, your blogs, and everything. Like, this is a screenshot of my about section, just the end part of it. And here you can see the last three lines. If anyone comes to my about section, they can see that I have a website, I have a blog. Perfect. I have a YouTube channel, I have these two email addresses. So what it helps to convey is, again, my credentials, my credibility. It shows that I am actually affiliated with this university, right? I've got a YouTube channel which they can obviously check out. It has got this name, engineering, which again kind of speaks to the people that I am related to engineering, and they can see that I have a website and blog if they want to check it out. So it just shows you how I have connected everything and how you should do. You should have your LinkedIn profile connected to your email. So in your email signatures, always have a link to your LinkedIn profile, and in your LinkedIn profile back to your email. And slowly and gradually, if you have a website, a blog, a YouTube channel, or anything, just start linking them up. uh, and just don't this goes without saying, but just don't link your Snapchat or your Instagram profile. Just keep it very professional. Any questions to before I move on? Or what
There's one
blogging platforms do
question.
you suggest? WordPress is perfect. For starters, WordPress is perfect. However, if uh, the the order that I recommend is, before you start blogging, you first get your LinkedIn profile updated, up to date, and then start writing articles with on LinkedIn only. Once you start writing articles on LinkedIn, then your next step should be to build your own personal website, and within your website you should start a blog, right? So it is LinkedIn first, then writing articles on LinkedIn, then starting your website, and then writing articles on your website. What are some of the challenges that people commonly encounter while building a brand? It is probably how to grow your brand. That is the biggest challenge that people face. How to grow your brand. It takes a lot of effort, and not everyone can build it right off the bat. Elaborate why you think having a professional email is important. Not something I can really elaborate on, but it just looks nice on your CV, on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile. If, let's say, if my email address, what's my email address? If I just put my email address up, my email address is Muhammad.Khan, just my entire name. It's okay, nothing fancy. If, on the other hand, if I had an email address which said zen.guru of engineering at gmail.com, so it would kind of bring a negative notion about me. People would start like doubting my abilities. They would say, "Oh, he considers himself a guru. Is he one? Let's challenge him." So that is not what you would want. You would want to keep it simple, not give out too much information about yourself. Probably you can put in, like, if you cannot get a good email address, like if your name is, let's say, Asad Khan, and you cannot get a good email address because all the good email addresses are taken, you can have something like asadkhan.pk. Just get creative, but don't give out too much information. Don't put anything that might be controversial or that might spark someone to have a wrong notion about you. So coming back to questions, Would you suggest money to advertise your brand? Never, never. If at any point you have to spend money to advertise your brand, it is wrong, because what you are doing is you are building your personal brand. You are not building your personal brand in order to sell something. Like, what I'm glad that Ahmed Fareed asked this, because what the notion that we currently have is, when we go to YouTube and we go to Facebook and we get these ads of people first showing their cars, their houses, and then talking about some stuff of how they got rich. So we get the image that that is personal branding, that, and that is not. So you do not want to sell anything, you just want to create a name for yourself. You want people to know you by your name rather than the firm you work for. That is the ultimate aim. Okay, so I think there is a question and answer panels. Let me see. What are the okay? What are the common challenges? Elaborate why you think. Okay, what? Okay, what if you don't know Photoshop or don't have a good aesthetic sense? I don't know Photoshop, but my banner looks good enough. At least what that is what I think. Um, the way that you can make this is, let me show you how. So you go to Google, you write canva.com. This is the website, canva.com. You go here, you create a free account. It has got all these perfectly good templates. You write LinkedIn, LinkedIn banner. This one, you click this, and you get all these banners. You just pick any that isn't for premium members. Let's say you want to get this, right? You pick this up, and then it's just completely drag and drop. Instead of this, let's say I write Ahmed Fareed. Apologies if I spelled your name wrongly. So let's say third year engineering student. Right. And now what you can do is you can probably just edit these images, and I can just edit these images and put one of my own. And that is how simple it is. If I go to my uploads. So you get an idea. So just in 2 minutes you can get a completely good professional looking LinkedIn banner. And now you can just download it and put it up on your LinkedIn profile. It isn't hard, it just takes a couple of minutes. Should we tailor our personal brand according to a job we are applying for, or uh, so personal brand is independent of the job that you are applying for. Personal brand, what it does is it increases your visibility, and what you would want is the people, the like, it builds credibility to you, it brings visibility to you. So it has got nothing to do with jobs. A side effect would be that as it would help to open doors for you ultimately, but that is not what you are focusing on. You are focusing on having everything that you are done in one place or a number of connected places, bringing them together and letting people know about your personal brand. What are some of the challenges that encounter? Elaborate. Okay, should be tailor. How to choose a niche? Okay, writing good articles. Uh, mm, okay. Uh, is there any more questions before I move on?
I
Okay,
think
perfect.
people who had questions they have written in the chat, and we can move forward. You can
Okay,
continue.
okay, perfect. So, how to define your niche? That is one of the questions that was asked. So my simplest advice would be, don't fret over it. Don't think too much about it. You don't have to define your niche right now, or not even in 10 years down the line, because if you are like me, my interests change all over the place. Like right now, what I am focusing on is I am focusing. This is again from my LinkedIn. I am focusing on robotics, technology, engineering, and productivity. I have kept it kind of like very broad horizon. So I've encompassed all of engineering into this one thing. But you don't have to focus on anything right now. You All you need to do is you need to pick anything that you want to and start writing. That is what you want to. So again, it doesn't matter what you want to write on. You need to realize that if you start now, you would be early in the game. What people start doing is, once they become famous, they start building their personal brand, and that is what they do wrong, right? Once you become famous, and if you start doing it, then it's already too late. All the good domains, all the good email addresses, everything good is like already taken. So if you start now, it doesn't matter what you write on. Here are some of the things that you can probably write on. You can start writing on college life, study techniques, productivity, current affairs,
You're
whatever you want
connected.
to. Sorry.
Then I think it's okay. You can continue.
Okay. So the, at this stage, your objective should be you want to become very known within the community that you are targeting. And as I mentioned previously, your community wouldn't remain the same. Right now, if you are focusing on technology, probably 20 days down the line, your interest would change. You would start focusing on arts. All you want to do is you want to focus on one thing, start like building your personal brand around it, becoming very known within that field, and whenever you feel like you can obviously switch to another one. It doesn't have to remain constant. And slowly and gradually you would ultimately find out what your focus area is, and then you can start concentrating on that one. But for now, if you start now, you can probably experiment with anything and everything that comes your way. So another thing that might be on your mind is, why would anyone listen to you, right? Why would anyone listen to you? You are just a third year, fourth year undergrad who is just about to graduate. There are people far more experienced than you. Why would anyone come to you for help? Why would anyone think that you know more about, let's say, cars than a professional, right? So the short answer is, I hate to break it to you, but no one would listen to you actually. You are just going to be another person just blabbering on the internet. That is the truth. I don't want to hide that from you. That is going to be the truth. No one would listen to you. But if you stick to it long enough, you would start getting noticed. And here's why. When you continue posting again and again and again, and by posting, I mean quality posts, not what normally people post. So you start popping up in news feeds again and again. I remember that when I started doing all of this, so I went to a family gathering, and a few of our cousins were sitting around in a circle on the table, and they started to make fun of me. They started to make fun of me for the content that I was posting on LinkedIn. And right there, I realized that now, after months and months of effort, I was starting to pop up in their newsfeed, and they were starting to notice it. So if they had started to notice my name, then probably others would have started to notice it too. And ultimately, if you start posting again and again, the algorithm one day will favor you, and one spark is all you need. Once you get that spark, once someone of high authority, high credentials, like, acknowledges you, he vouches for you, that is what you want. And then ultimately what happens is, if you post about one topic long enough, people kind of get an idea, they kind of have a notion about you that this guy knows more than I do. That is all that they care about. Like, uh, I have this mechanical keyboard right here. If anyone is interested in keyboards, he would know what a mechanical keyboard is. It's a very small area of concentration. But like, mechanical keyboards are these really expensive keyboards that have got all these customizations possible. You can take out all the keys, you can change all the keycaps, you can change the entire frame, and it's like a hobby and a productivity geekish activity at the same time. Now, I post about mechanical keyboards a lot, and just the other day, there was someone who came up to me and asked me about advice on mechanical keyboards. Like, I'm not an expert in this field, but all that he cares about is he knows that I know more about mechanical keyboards than he does, and that is what you want. You want to show people that you actually know more than someone, then probably they know, and they come to you for help. You are ready to help, you help them, and one thing leads to another, and slowly and gradually you build a personal brand, you start getting famous, and that is how it progresses. Um, so the other day I was listening to Jordan Peterson and his story as to how he became famous. So he was talking to someone on a podcast, and he mentioned that the way he got famous was, he never intended to become famous. All that happened was, one day he was in his office room in the university, and he got a call from a reporter. So he picked up a call, and there was so and so reporter, and he wanted to interview this person. So Jordan Peterson, he wanted to interview Jordan Peterson. He discussed this with one of his colleagues, and his colleague's reaction was, I have been contacted with that by that person several times, and I have always declined it. And the reason is that I do not trust reporters. So Jordan Peterson was curious. He was like, why do you not trust reporters? And the other person was cynical. He was like, reporters make up all these false information and so and so. So Jordan Peterson was like, I'm just going to speak to one reporter and see where it takes me. He spoke to one reporter, his article got published, it did not get famous. But that reporter wanted to interview him another time. He interviewed him another time with another person. So now there were two reporters. The other reporter then introduced him to several other reporters, and they started to get in on his news. He started to talk. So he had all the great qualities. His public speaking was pretty good from the like when the reporter approached him. His public speaking was already good for a number of years, but he just needed that one spark, and just that one spark ignited that entire thing, brought about a domino effect. And what ultimately did was it led his personal branding to get boosted, and now it is on another level. So you don't really do something like thinking that this would lead to this. It's just you do one thing at a time, and it slowly and gradually builds up. So let me just see how many slides I have. Okay, I just have 3 more slides. So um, so now the question is, let's say you have decided that you are going to post about a focus area. Let's say you want to focus about productivity. Now the question is, how do you post consistently, right? Uh, I have been in your shoes. Like, I wanted to post about a certain area, and then after writing a few posts for a few days, I was blank. I did not know what to do. So my simple tips would be to share from your everyday routine. You don't want this to take like an hour of your time. All you need to do is you need this to take just 5 minutes of your time, nothing more. So what I did like a couple of months, I guess 1 month ago, was I started this topic on tips that I use to increase productivity by 1%. And what I did was, for the next 30 days, I posted 30 different tips that I use. So you see, I did not have to go out of the way to search for anything. These were all the tips that I was using. Like, one tip was when I was using this mechanical keyboard to write with all 10 fingers. Another thing was probably, I guess, it was making use of a number of different softwares. So all the tips that you already used, you just have to put them into words, put them into a story, and post them. That is all. The second is, you should share your work. For those who are book readers, I would highly recommend you to read this book. And coming to book reading, like, I have seen that book reading has become a very limited activity. People nowadays don't read books. However, I remain a strong advocate of reading books. Um, I can probably have a very long discussion on why I think books are the way to go, but just a couple of things. The first is that uh, if you try and consume information via books, that is far more efficient, like at least 3 times more efficient than consuming information via any other media. And that is scientifically proven too. So the way the speed that you can read is way faster than, like, probably the speed at which you can watch YouTube videos. So if you can read, and there are obviously tips to increase your reading speed, you can take it up as much as 200 words per minute. So if you are able to do it, then, like, I probably can finish a book in 6.5 hours, and that is nothing. Like, I can finish one book in a week. So if you can do that, you can consume so much knowledge. And the other reason that I want people to read books is because books are kind of a legacy of a person, as I showed you. So before that, if you want to build your brand image, the last thing would be to become an author, because once you become an author, it takes years and years to write a single book. On the other hand, if you are doing a course, it takes months to make a course. If you are looking at a YouTube video, probably a week. but it takes years and years of work, of research, of condensing that knowledge to write a book. So, and imagine if you can consume years and years of knowledge in a week. That is like a superpower. So I would highly recommend that you start reading books if you don't. So this is an amazing book. You might want to start with this book. So all it says is you start sharing your work in small digestible chunks. If you are doing an assignment, or let's say you are using SolidWorks, you just start posting pictures of that. Start telling people what you are doing. If you are writing an article, just start telling people what you are doing. Just don't wait for the final product to start sharing. Like if you are writing an article and you share it, the article, it is just going to be one post. You don't want that to happen. If you are writing an article, you start sharing it from the get go. So right now, like if I go further, so like in here, I became cute like a couple of days ago. I became curious as to how artificial intelligence uses all these different technologies to make realistic images. And now, what I could have done is I could have written one article and posted it, and that would be it. But what I did was I posted on my LinkedIn profile that I have become interested in this, and would anyone be willing to read if I write on this? And a lot of people commented. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to research into this area slowly and gradually, build up all that information, post information as and when I get it, and ultimately, maybe a couple of weeks down the line, make a very polished article incorporating all the different reviews, all the different comments that I get into one, and then post it. So instead of it being one single post, I've divided it into several meaningful posts. The other advice I would say is always be an amateur. Never be taken as someone who is an expert in the field. Never. That is probably the biggest mistake you can do. If people start calling you an expert in the field, you need to change your field, right? Because the minute you start getting known as an expert in the field, you lose your leverage of making mistakes. So as soon as you become an expert, and if you make a mistake, it damages your reputation, it damages your personal branding. And that is not what you want. You want to remain an amateur throughout your life. So if you're an amateur, you make a mistake, no one cares. But being an amateur, if you post about certain topics, people realize that you know more than they do, and they come to you. So uh, it might take a lot of time to really grasp this concept, but like it is kind of a game changing concept to always remain amateur, never aim for being an expert. And if you realize that most of the people who are successful in life, they never aim for being expert in their field. Some people might call them an expert, but they never call them an expert, because if you are an amateur, you are looking for different areas. You are not sticking to one field. You are going to different areas. You are curious, looking at different resources and making your way, and that is what you want. And I would recommend that you teach what you know. Never be a holder of knowledge. So here is a small picture. It shows you on a scale of sharing. If you don't share anything, you become a holder. If you share too much, you become a spammer. So this is the sweet point that you would want to be at, being a contributor. And another tip that I would highly recommend is it is perfectly okay to share the work of others, but with proper credits. Never share anything without proper credits. Nothing can damage your personal brand more than if you share someone's post without proper credits, and like one day or another they find out, they comment on your post, and your entire personal branding is gone. So never share the work of others without proper credit. And if you are using LinkedIn, commenting is almost as good as sharing new information. So if you comment on someone's post and meaningful comments, and they interact back, and you have a nice discussion, then it's good for the algorithm. And probably the last thing would be never post anything that you wouldn't bother reading yourself. Right now, people are exposed to so much knowledge. Like I was reading the other day, there was this study done, and in the study, it was revealed then that a person in 1900, the amount of knowledge that he was like he came across his entire life, we have more like we are exposed to more knowledge than that in one day. So in 1900, one person his entire life, the amount of knowledge he is exposed to compared to the amount of knowledge that we are exposed to in one day. That is equal. So you don't want to hear anything that you wouldn't bother reading yourself. So you should value the time of others.
But
So
Zen,
the next thing is,
sorry.
how do you measure success? You have built your personal brand. How do you measure success? And just a couple of quotes that I have. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And I'm sure many of you must have heard of this quote, and like it's one of my favorite quotes too. So, and another quote which is like written inside the NASA headquarters, it says that in God we trust, all others must bring data. So you need data to be able to measure your success. By the way, before I proceed, just for those who are interested, so if you read into this, the first quote, you would realize that Peter Drucker never said that. What he said actually was, what he said was, uh, um, he said it is not true that if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So what people have done is they have removed "it is not true" from this quote and they have put this instead. So it is widely used, but if you read into it, you would get to know that he did not actually mean this. So like it is just a classical example of pulling things out of context. And since I did it too, I just wanted to bring it to your knowledge. So how do you measure success? One of the things that I highly recommend is to make use of a knowledge management system. For those of you who are actually serious about doing it, just keep a note of this, write this down anywhere, write personal knowledge management system or PKM. Anywhere, write in bracket second brain and do a Google search. I have written articles on this. There are hundreds of people who have written articles on this. And this is probably, if I had to credit everything that I have achieved to this point, it would be due to this thing. So the second brain. So just Google this, and if you want, you can always connect with me and we can have a detailed discussion on this. Like I can probably speak on this for 2 hours. That is how crucial this is. So just to give you an idea, the things that I keep track of, I keep track of the books that I read, the research papers, the YouTube videos, the LinkedIn posts, and other things. And these are just a few ideas that I have that you can track too. So just quickly, just to show you how I track things. So here is my website. I don't want to dive into the details, but you can see that I have got all these different links to different things, adding to my YouTube, adding to my experiences to a GIK University. Here's a link to all the books that I read. So if anyone is interested, he goes here and he sees this page and he can see all the different books that I read. So this kind of again builds my personal brand. He knows that the kind of books that I read, he can see, filter them out, the books that I read in 2021. So and he can even click, and in some of the books, I have put even notes here. So whatever I write, so it's just building on top of it. And so you have to measure your success, you have to measure data in order to see where you are going. And I've just put a screenshot of again my LinkedIn profile, so you can see before I started building my personal brand to versus right now, and you can see that there is actually a big jump in the number of impressions that I get. And just to think about it, that over 520,000 people saw what I posted in 1 year. 520,000 people is like a huge number. And I, by all means, is not even an amateur at this stage. So, like, and the thing is that this, what I have posted is purely technical content, purely content that about robotics, engineering, productivity, and stuff. So it is a very limited domain stuff that I am posting, and so many people are viewing it. So what's the end goal of this? So I hate to break it to you, but there isn't one. It's just the journey. It's never the destination. So it's kind of a domino effect. You do one thing, you focus on to the next. You do one thing, you focus on to the next, and slowly and gradually, it's an alternating thing between your effort and your opportunity. You do an effort, you get an opportunity. Based on the opportunity and how well you perform, you put in more effort, you get another opportunity, and it's a complete cycle. Like in for preparing for this presentation, I spent like I guess 7 hours, right? But I did a lot of effort. I got this opportunity. Now if I perform well, a lot of you might have questions. They might come back to me, and we build a strong relationship out of it. So It's a win-win relationship for both of us. You just let your chips fall where they may. But at the end, what you want to do is after every certain number of days, you want to take a pause, step out of this, and you need to measure the data. After a rocking horse, there's no progress. Like it does motion, but no progress. So you don't want to be a rocking horse. And coming to my last slide, which is when to say no to an opportunity. Um, this kind of is like we have been from the very start. We have been told to say yes to every opportunity. However, I do not believe it to be true. At the start, obviously, you never say no to any opportunity unless obviously if you get a job paying 10,000 rupees, you don't want to accept that opportunity, right? You are clever enough to not go for that. But other than that, you never say no to any opportunity. But later on, as you progress down the line, you need to find out what your time is worth, not in monetary terms, but the impact that you can bring about. You need to wait against the opportunity that you have, and you need to allocate your time to maximize the impact. So the way that, like, to give you an example of this is that so again, there is this book, Hell Yes, Yeah or No. For those who are interested in reading, this is a good read too. So in order to give this some context, so this is one of the videos that I recently made on my YouTube channel, and I spent over 40 hours making it. This is like a 40 minutes, I guess 20 minutes or 40 minutes video, and spending 40 hours making it is a huge time, right? But the way that like the way that I measure its impact is based on the total number of hours people have spent watching it. And the impact is that for this particular video, the total number of hours that people have spent watching it is like 170 plus hours. And this is going to continue increasing in the future too. So if I spend 40 hours making it and my effort gets amplified more than 4 times, that is amazing. All I aim to do is I want my effort to be amplified more than one time. So if it's a factor of 1.1, I'm good to go. Obviously, there are a lot of things you need to see. Like if you are presenting to the top level management, you don't really need to be focusing on this. It depends on who is listening to your stuff and everything. Like I spent like 7-8 hours making this particular presentation, but if I spend 7-8 hours, if let's say if 10 people are listening to me, or if 20 people are listening to me, so 20 people are listening to me, multiply by 1 hour, so that is like 20 hours that people have given to me. So for 7 hours that I've put in, I've gotten 20 hours in return, and that's like a factor of 2 point, I guess 5 or something. So that kind of brings me to my end of what I wanted to cover. If anyone wants to, he can connect with me on my website, which is zenuza.com, or you can go to my YouTube channel, Engineering Simplified. And again, keeping in line with the topic that we have, again, you can see that this is my default slide for every presentation that I give. And I have this, my website here. So it kind of adds credibility to who I am. It increases my visibility. If I would have put my LinkedIn profile here, no one would have bothered to go there. People might like say, okay, Zenuza, not difficult to type. They might go to Google and find my website. So all it does is, if you build a personal brand, it brings you a lot of different opportunities. One thing leads to another, and like by all means, I am an amateur, but just a few days ago, I was invited to give a presentation at one of the biggest software security firms in USA, or I would say across the entire world. So it's a big firm. I was speaking to a panel of 50 top level management, and who am I? I'm just an amateur who knows very little. But the way that you present it, you give it out to people, the way you speak, it says a lot about you. So that ends what I had to say. If you have any questions, you can either we can have a discussion right now, or if you are running late on time, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. We can have a discussion there.